Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video where I am going to be ranking 19 eyeshadow palettes that I have been trying out, that I have been doing looks with, having fun with, and I'm going to let you know which ones are my favorites and which ones are not my favorites. Although I will say in this selection of palettes, for once, and that's pretty rare, I don't dislike any of the palettes, so it's more like which ones I think are better than the others, and the ones that are on the bottom have some minor things going wrong with them that I don't like. But let's jump into it because we have 19. 19, and I'm gonna show you swatches of everything. I think some of these palettes are going back all the way back to December, so I have palettes from December and January mainly. There might be one or two palettes that was released in February that I got sent to me early in PR, so that I was able to try them out a bit earlier. Some of these brands I do have discount codes with, and if I do, I will pop it up here on the side. Know that this video is not sponsored. Some of these palettes I bought myself. Is that even true? Yes, some of these palettes I have bought myself and some of them have been sent to me as PR, and I will per usual put all the details down in the description box where I will also mark which ones I bought myself and which ones I have gotten in PR. So if you're wondering about any of these, check the description box down below. And also I have swatches of all of these so that you can see like how they actually look. And I also feel like we have a theme going on. And we'll talk about that once we get there. And also, quick question. Let me know down in the comments. Every year, I do a yearly ranking of all the palettes that I've tried. And usually, I'm not able to include a couple that's been released towards the tail end of the year because, of course, I haven't been able to try them before I film my ranking. Last year, I did not include the ones that I missed from December the year before in my yearly ranking. Would you like me to include those in my yearly ranking, even though they were released in so my yearly ranking of 2024, would you like me to include the palettes that I wasn't able to rank from the December of 2023? Let me know down in the comments if you would like me to keep it to this year or if you would like me to include the ones that got lost in the shuffle. Let's start at the bottom, and this actually surprised me a little bit as well. I was sitting down trying to rank these, which ones are my favorites, which ones are not, and when I ended getting to the bottom, I actually got these here. And this, again, this isn't because I necessarily think that these are bad palettes. I'm gonna rank these at the same position, even though they're two palettes. So I'm guessing we're starting at position number 18, but I'm just gonna let you know about these separately, but I'm ranking them together. This is the green one. This is the Glamlite and the Nightmare on Elm Street palette. And this is the Freddy Krueger palette. Here's the thing with these palettes. These are a nice formula, but the shimmers are not that really amazing Glamlite shimmer formula. It is a decent shimmer formula, but it's not that amazing formula. And I remember getting a comment from someone saying that they said that. And at that point, I had only used one shimmer in the palette, which is the only one that's actually really amazing. And I was like, oh, I didn't feel like that. And she was right and I was wrong. It is not the same formula. Now that I have used them more, I've swatched through all of them, it is not the same shimmer formula. And also this color story, it's a little bit one-noted. It needed to be something a little bit more different than the three shades that's going on here. Again, there's nothing wrong with this. I love when Glamlite does smaller palettes like this, but they have done that better than this. And this is the Dream Master palette. Okay, that's what it's called. I like this color story a lot more. It's a little bit more diverse. But I used this one. It's an amazing shimmer. I used this one too, and I thought that one looked good on the lid. But this one doesn't, it's very stiff. It's not super impressive. So the silver one is really, really good. I did not have any problems with the mattes. Myself, I like working with Glamlite mattes, and I thought that these worked really good. I will say the red one is it's dry and hard pressed, but I will say when you use vegan pigments, red pigments, sometimes they end up being a little bit more stiffer and drier in the formula. Still works good on the eyes if you're able to have a brush that picks it up. These really super smooth synthetic brushes usually cannot work with the vegan, really, really vibrant vegan red eyeshadow. In my humble opinion, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. I'm just letting you know, usually vegan red pigments just feel different in the formula. It feels grittier, drier. Doesn't mean that it's bad though, it still looks beautiful on the eyes. But I do agree, don't hate these, but these are not the same. Not bad, but just not the same. And I like the other Glamlite formulas that they had way more. Do I have another? Yeah, I have another Glamlite palette in here that I really, really, really enjoy. These are nice, but not my favorite. I actually bought these myself. This is the PR package that got lost in transit, so I just bought the palettes myself. But I'm just like, it's okay, but nothing more. We're gonna put the Nabla palette here. This one was sent to me as PR. This is the side-by-side nude palette, a baby. So this is a smaller version of their side-by-side, and it is a pinkier version of their side-by-side. And we are now gonna see two neutral palettes back to back. The reason why this one is lower than the other one is that I like the color scheme of the other one more, but I do like that this one goes from dark to light. It's a little bit more heavier on the matte side than the shimmer side, which is something that I like, but this one is leaning a little bit more pinky, and the other one is leaning a little bit more golden, which is what I prefer when it comes to neutral shadow. I will say the shadow in the middle, you probably saw it in the swatches, that shimmer, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous. This is not a bad neutral palette. This is really nice if you like this color story. I actually personally, and I'm sure also that it's more affordable, although I'm not 100% sure, I do prefer the Golden Hour by Colourpop. This one I also bought myself. This one is a neutral palette that's a little bit more golden, which is something that I prefer when it comes to neutral shadows. I even prefer like the C3PO, and I've said that before when I talked about this palette. I prefer that one even more because that's actually like a neutral and yellow palette, which is something that I prefer when it comes to like neutrals. I love brown with yellow. I think that is absolutely a gorgeous color combination that I just really, really enjoy. This one has some really light ones, some really dark ones. This one you can definitely make dark in the outer corner. There are some super shocks, there are some shimmers. I think there's a super shock as well, maybe not. Maybe there's shimmers and one of these, their version of a pressed glitter. Not my favorite, but some people really like it. Is that a super shock? No, I think it's shimmers, mattes, and a glitter. I think it's a nice one. Oh, and a couple of mattes with glitter particles in them, which is a formula that I actually really enjoy and I think Colourpop makes really good. But again, a neutral palette that has no twist will just never be a favorite of mine unless there's something with it that just blows my socks off. And this just doesn't have that. Next is going to be the Melt and Bailey Sarian Fatally Yours palette. This is an all matte palette, which is usually something that I really like. But what this palette doesn't have going for it is that it's leaning very dark. All of these shadows, even this one that looks like it's going to be light, they're all dark. There are no light shades in here. For me, there's not even a transition shade barely in here. They're all very dark. So for me, this is a companion palette. And I will say from just personal experience, a companion palette for me will always be a light palette, a pastel palette. I will reach for a palette for a lighter shade. But if you're the kind of person, and I know there are a bunch of you out there because I see you commenting, that reach for a companion palette for the darker shades, this might be for you because Melt's formula is really nice. I will say though, when I do my eyeshadow, I use my eyeshadow on a non-set base. Like I use my shadow primer and then I don't set my base and I go in with eyeshadows. That's how I like to do my eyeshadow. Everybody works differently with eyeshadow. We all have our personal preferences. So I will say this one works way better on a set base. I'm just throwing it out there. If you're ever struggling with Melt mattes, it's usually because they perform way better on a set base. So if you're like me and you don't set your eyeshadow primer and you feel like Melt mattes sometimes get a little patchy, every time I review Melt, I forget about that. And my first look is always like, oh, I forgot, I should have set it. But also there is nothing here for me, my skin tone, there's nothing here for me to set my base with. So I'd have to use powder. Again, that's not a problem. But for me, this is a companion palette, and for me, usually companion palette is something lighter. So just take this for what you will. Don't dislike it, it's just not my favorite. This is the Colourpop and Twilight palette. As I'm filming this, they still haven't restocked this one. I tried to buy this one at launch, but it's sold out, and Colourpop actually was kind enough to send me a PR box. So I'm very grateful for that, because I will tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with the quality of this one. I think this is a nice palette. I've been able to do some really nice looks with it. This light one is really cute. There's some really nice variation in here. Again, there is a couple of those like more sparkly, almost like pressed glitters, but they're like eye safe pressed glitters. If you dot those on an eyeshadow, it actually looks really pretty. It's just not my favorite formula, but I like this palette for what it is. It is based on this like blue filter that they had going on in the first Twilight movie, and for that, I think they did a good job. It is a well-balanced color story. The formula is really nice. I had no problem working with it, but me, and you will see that in the next palette as well, I will always prefer warmer shadows over cooler shadows. Even though today I'm wearing cooler shadows, but it's just a personal preference. So when it comes down to like ranking, stuff like that, like what's my favorite palette, something like this that is leaning a little bit more on the gray side will just never be a favorite over something that's a little bit more on the warmer side. And that definitely comes to show when we're talking about this one. This is the Cold Moon palette by Ensley Rain, and this is their almost cool tone palette, because there is a couple of shades here that you can see is leaning a little bit more, like there's a couple of like more pinky shades in here, but overall this is a cool tone palette with some pops of like somewhat mid-tone, like pinky almost. On me they lean a little warm because I have a warm undertone. This is great quality. Ensley Rain does amazing quality eyeshadows. I can't deny that. I really like what they have going on. I have not tried some of their older palettes, but I've tried a couple of these. There are in these like square pans, plus that like pastel palette that they had. Oh, it is so good. So I can't deny the formula is beautiful, but I just can't get super excited about a palette that's leaning this gray. It is impossible. So I have to say, like, yes, this is incredible quality. I just can't rank it any higher than this because this just isn't the color story for me. It just will never be. Here's another Colourpop palette. This is the Lost in Love. And this is a color story that I actually really like, but I don't like this as much as I like their Valentine's palette that I had last year. And I think the main reason is that this one is a little bit more mid-tone than that one. I love that they included some like corals and oranges here, but the one that they had last year, it's leaning a little darker and it's leaning a little lighter. It had this amazing almost white pink in there that was just beautiful, and I kept reaching for that shade again and again and again. It was the most brightening, beautiful, opaque. Ugh, it was so pretty. This one is nice. I like the quality of this. I like the colors of this, but it doesn't make me tingle the way that last year's palette did, color story wise. It's a nice palette. Don't mind the quality at all. I really love the look that I did with it. I just don't love it as much as I loved last year's palette. That ranked really high in my yearly ranking. That one is so good. Here we have Adept Cosmetics Element 115. It's the one with the little alien on. This one would have ranked higher if this one had more mattes. I can tell you that right now. I really like that this one goes really deep, and I like that the mattes that are in here actually all work together really well. These will go together, these will go together, these will go together. Like, they all work really well together. What takes this down a little bit is that there are too many shimmers, and some of these shimmers, and you probably see that in the swatches as well, they're not different enough for them to all have to be in the same palette. I feel like the shimmers are a little bit one-noted, but I feel like this is definitely a step in the direction that I want Adept to take. Because I think Adept has amazing quality, but they don't always do color stories that is perfect for me. And again, this is a preference thing, because I know there are people out there that are like, Adept is my favorite like color stories ever. I love everything everything they touch is like amazing. For me, I'm like, I just want a little bit more from the color stories, and I'm thinking that we're gonna see that. I think they're releasing a pastel palette soon, and I am drooling to see what that is all about. This is from Ensley Rain, and this is the Blooming Basket. I will say this is probably my least favorite packaging of all the palettes that we're seeing here, and I really hope that this is something that the brand is going to work on for this year, because I feel like the color story is wild and cohesive at the same time, and when you see the swatches of this, you're going to be like, first of all, you're going to be like, oh, what is this? Nothing goes together. But the more you look at it, the more you see opportunities, because there are some really nice colors in here that really go well together. And the duochrome that we have in some of these shades, it really just work with the color story that's in here, especially this like green, blue, purple. It just goes with everything. The look that I filmed with this palette, that I filmed when Rachel was here, who's editing this video, by the way, it's one of my most favorite looks that I've ever worn in my life. And I just feel like this palette is like unexpected and fun and chaotic in the best way. Some of these mattes are incredible. Some of the mattes are still needing a little work on it, but I know that that's one of the things that Dedes Signature is working on, taking her mattes from okay to great. And I feel like this is a big step in the right direction. These are not like impossible to work with. Definitely not. I had so much fun with this. I just think that like we need to work on the packaging a little bit as well. This is when we're gonna start talking about the theme that I'm seeing, and once I've talked about the last palette with the theme, I'm gonna show you and then you can let me know what you think. This is the New Zealand Stargazing by Nomad Cosmetics. I think this is a really, really nice palette, but out of the ones with the theme I'm gonna be talking about, this is my least favorite because it has this almost like gray leaning again filter on some of these shadows. To say not as much as the one from Colourpop, but some of them are just leaning a little gray. But I really love the look that I filmed with this, and I have really been enjoying this shadow in the corner here. It's so stunning. It's like a peach, almost a good, it's so beautiful. It's really stunning. The formula is beautiful. But let me show you the next palette with a similar color story. This is the Dreamer by Unearthly. And I like this one just a little bit more because I feel like it's, I don't know if you can see, it's just a little bit more, I don't know, now that I put them, they're so similar. They're so similar. But this one has a little bit more of the gray leaning when I put them on my eyes. And this one actually only has one that has that, which is this these two on the shade side here. So I don't have to use those at all. I actually really appreciate the inclusion of the browns on the side as well, because I feel like I'd rather work with browns that is browns than something that's like that gray taupe. But yet, that's just a personal preference. The shimmers are really beautiful, even though I will say my favorite shimmers of these are that this one in the corner here. It's just so beautiful. Stunning. Both of these honestly are really beautiful, and they're pretty neck to neck if I'm gonna be honest. This is the Silent Night from Gourmande Girls. This was the holiday palette from Gourmande Girls last season. Now again, we're getting into some December palettes. This is what it looks like. I love the blue and yellow color story. It's so beautiful. This one is leaning a little warmer. I think you can see a little warmer, and this one is leaning a little cooler. There is two dark blues in here. That could have been switched out for something else. I don't understand why one of those blues weren't a lighter blue matte. That would have made much more sense. But overall, I think this color story is fun, cohesive. It is a half neutral palette, half colorful palette, where the colors is bright yellow and bright blue, two of my favorite colors to wear. So I really like it. There are two really light colors here as well. Overall, I just think that this is a really beautiful palette. Now we're coming into the last palette with the color story that I'm talking about. This is the Lethal Cosmetics. What is this called? Like I think it's Midnight Serenade? It's the one with the moth on the, I could be lying to you, but this is what it looks like. Okay, let us have those palettes side by side and you can tell me if you see what I see. There is a pink, blue, mauve, cool tone, some purple theming going on right now with these brands, and like great minds think alike, because these all pretty much came out at the same time, so there's no way that they could have been like looking at each other's homework. But it's always really interesting when you see these like color stories, like similar color stories come out from different brands, and you're like, wow, this really must be a trending one, because like they're all coming out at the same time. I will say this one is my favorite because I really like the way that this one can give you that theme, the pinky, mauve, red, purple with some pops of blue. But also this one has other options. There's this really nice like duochrome that's like almost like a red with an olive green. There is a black, there is a blue iridescent like duochrome over here. There is just some very interested, muted, not as cool tone. That's probably the main reason for me why I like this one more. Not as cool toned as the other two, and I just really enjoyed this. I think they smashed it with the formula. Absolutely beautiful formula. I think this is beautiful. This is the Glamlite palette I was talking about. This is the Garfield palette. I feel like this one flew under the radar a little bit. I love this color story. So warm, so bright, so like bam. This one, it's so fun. But also this one that you see here, yeah, you see it's a purple with a gold sheen. It goes so well together with this one over here. I can't deny, I love shades like this. The very yellowy orange just makes me so happy. I think this is beautiful. I think this is again, like half neutral, half colorful palette. And it's also like a almost blue, but like a little dusky with the yellow, and I just love this. And the red matte, this is beautiful. This is stunning. The quality is wonderful. This is a color story that I really like, and this is probably my favorite packaging. It's just so well made. that Glamlite has ever done. I really, really like this one. I think it is stunning. Okay, number 4 is gonna be the Ultraviolet Deandra Nicole and Bella Beauté bar. This is stunning. If you like purple, girl, purple is a color I love to wear, but it's not my favorite. You heard it. Yellow, red, blue, those are colors that I reach for more. I love purple more than I love pink, and it's stunning, and the quality of these are absolutely beautiful. When I'm like, oh, I'm gonna reach for something in my collection, what am I gonna do? It's rarely, oh, let me do a purple look. And I don't know why, because for a lot of people, I know people personally that like purple is my favorite eyeshadow look. For me, it's blue and yellow. Not necessarily like always together, even though I think that's fun too, but those are the kind of colors that I like reach for. This is stunning. I can't deny the quality. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm happy to have this in my collection. But let's go into another Glamlite palette because, like I said, red, and this is actually like somewhat affordable as well in the grand scheme of things. Stunning. Stunning. The red background makes this look like it's an all red palette, but there are definitely options in here. There are some differences. You can go a little bit more purple. There is some more mauve leaning colors. There's a peach. There are 2 like taupey colors as well. I've seen some people do looks with this that have done like an all neutral look, and I'm like, oh, that is so impressive and so beautiful. This is one of my favorite palettes from Glamlite ever. I absolutely love it. Do I think that the red background is maybe leading it to making it look like a little bit weirder than it is? Maybe, but oof, I really like this one. Okay, I think a lot of people are gonna say that this is their favorite, and this is the Dead Roses by Bella Beauté bar, and this on position 2 for a good reason. It is beautiful. Absolutely stunning. The shades are beautiful. I will say this one, you can see here. These multichromes, a lot of them, what they are shifting into, it's almost always a green. So in a palette like this, when you see it like this, you're like, oh, that's such a nice, like dark, gloomy purple with red. Again, I love red, and I love red and pink together. And you're like, oh, it's so nice. But then when you see this, you're like, oh, there's actually some green shades in here. And this is what I mean with sometimes, like the quality is incredible. But none of these mattes really go with, according to me, a green dark shimmer on the lid. That's not true. That looks gorgeous, but I'm never gonna do that. This does make sense. So I can't deny quality is stunning. What I've done with this palette has been beautiful. This like pink, like with the blue like duochrome is beautiful. But like this one and this one up here, I don't think we needed those. And I almost think that like these as just regular foiled beautiful metallics and lowering the price a little bit would have made more sense in this palette. This one is actually a dark black base with a dark foresty green and a red shift. And I think that one works better because the red shift is what you're going to see at tail end. So it blends into these mattes. I hope you understand what I mean. So this is amazing quality. This is a beautiful color story. This color story, the one you're seeing here, 10 out of 10, absolute favorite. This one, 6 out of 10. I just wish that we would have less special shades for the sake of special shades, when a lot of special shades do lean into green, and not every look needs a multichrome with a green end. So that is beautiful quality, but you better love green because a lot of the shades are going to be a low green on the end. I love green too, but you get what I'm saying. It sounds like I'm negative. I still put it on position number 2. Clearly I love it. It's beautiful. This is stunning. This is the Aurora Lights. I was gonna say something else. This is from Simply Posh Cosmetics. Beautiful. I will say when I use this palette, I usually reach for a pastel to put in my inner corner, but I love that there's a lighter and a darker and a shimmer in the middle. It's matte heavy. Quality is beautiful. And the thing that I love the most, I think, about this palette is that, I don't know if you can see the shifts a little bit. Most of these are like duochromes. They're not exactly, I think you can see that, they're not exactly corresponding to what you see. This is a purple to a green, but this green corresponds to this right here, the minty green. And when you see the purple, it corresponds to this under. All of these duochromes make 1,000,000% sense in this palette because they match so well with what's going on here. And they're a little bit, some of them are a little bit more topper, some of them are like a smooth foil. Very impressed. And then there is this like almost like and it is a taupey roll. Taupes has been all the rage this season apparently. It's the gray gift that keeps on giving. I will never do this gray, but I do love that there's an almost black here. So if you wanted to smoke out a couple of these, since this is more cool tone brown, it won't disrupt the more cool tone of this. I can do a cool tone when it's a little bit more brighter than this and it doesn't have that gray filter over it. I think that this is a beautiful palette. I think this is stunning, and Simply Posh Cosmetics has let us know that they're going to re-release the Citrus Punch palette with this new and improved formula, and I am front of the line. Don't make me camp in line to get that palette. Cannot wait. That color story is bomb.com, and if I can get that in this formula, blown away. I really, really love that one. Let me know if you've tried any of these palettes. Let me know if any of these palettes are on your wish list. I hope this made sense whatsoever. Like I said, I don't hate any of these palettes. I think all of these palettes are somewhat good, but you're always going to end up having favorites, and hopefully I was able to convey to you why some palettes I prefer over others. And maybe it didn't make sense at all, and that's fine too. Let me know down in the comments. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon again in a new video. Bye!